Some places are cloaked in an unsettling darkness, hiding unseen forces that linger just beyond human perception. These entities watch in silence, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. This is the story of one such place, a location where a sinister presence made itself known in a terrifying way. Welcome to another true horror story. Today, we delve into the chilling legend of the Bell Witch. In the early 1800s, John Bell moved his family from North Carolina to Red River, Tennessee, hoping for a fresh start. He purchased a vast piece of land and built a large home for his growing family. Over time, he expanded his property, juggling family life, church duties, and the grueling work of clearing land for crops. Then, in 1817, something strange happened. One afternoon, while inspecting his cornfield, John spotted a bizarre creature among the stalks. As he stepped closer, dread washed over him. The creature had the body of a dog, but the head of a rabbit. Panicked, he fired his rifle. The shots rang out, but when the smoke cleared, the creature was gone. Though shaken, he dismissed it. That evening, as the Bells sat down for dinner and later prepared for bed, John couldn't shake the unsettling encounter from his mind. Little did he know, it was only the beginning of a nightmare. As the family settled in for the night, a sudden thunderous banging rattled the log cabin walls. Grabbing his gun, John Bell rushed outside, expecting to find the source of the noise. But there was nothing, only an eerie, unnatural silence. The stillness sent a chill through him, but he reassured his family and they returned to bed. Their peace didn't last long. The following night, just as they began to drift off to sleep, the pounding returned, louder, more aggressive. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, shaking the very foundation of their home. The relentless pounding returned. It was only the beginning of the strange and terrifying events that would soon consume their lives. John reassured his family, but the terror didn't end. The following night, the banging returned, louder than ever. John and his sons rushed outside, determined to confront whatever was causing the noise. But once again, they found nothing, just an eerie silence. In the weeks that followed, the Bell children began waking up frightened, claiming to hear rats gnawing at their bedposts and feel their beds shaking violently. Soon they complained of blankets being pulled off them and pillows being thrown across the room by an unseen force. The disturbances grew more unsettling as the family began hearing faint whispers, sounding like an old woman softly singing hymns, though too weak to understand. The situation worsened when Betsy, the youngest, became the primary target of violent attacks. She was repeatedly struck and scratched by the invisible entity, leaving her bruised. The Bells were left helpless, trapped in a growing nightmare. It would pull her hair and slap her relentlessly, often leaving welts and handprints on her face and body. The disturbances at the Bell family home, which John Bell had initially asked his family to keep secret, eventually became so severe that John could no longer keep quiet. Desperate for help, he confided in his close friend and neighbor, James Johnston. Eager to uncover the truth, Johnston and his wife decided to spend the night at the Bell home. They quickly became victims of the same terrifying events. Their bed covers were ripped off, and they were slapped repeatedly by an unseen force. Panicked, Johnston jumped from his bed, shouting, "In the name of the Lord, who are you and what do you want?" But there was no response. The once faint whispers grew louder and more distinct, now unmistakable. The voice began singing hymns, quoting scripture, and even engaging in intelligent conversations. On one occasion, the entity recited 2 different sermons, word for word, being preached at the same time in separate locations. The strange happenings quickly gained attention, spreading beyond the settlement to Nashville. Major General Andrew Jackson, intrigued by the reports, decided to investigate for himself. Jackson, who had fought alongside John Bell and his sons during the Battle of New Orleans in 1819, was determined to uncover the truth. He and his party arrived at the Bell farm with horses pulling a wagon. However, as they approached, the horses suddenly stopped, unable to move the wagon forward. After several minutes of frustration, Jackson declared, "By the eternal boys, that must be the Bell." Just then, a disembodied female voice spoke, telling Jackson he could proceed and would meet him later that evening. Miraculously, the wagon began moving again, and Jackson and his men made their way to the Bell home. After arriving at the Bell home, Jackson and his men sat down for a long discussion about the strange happenings, including the paranormal activity. One of Jackson's men, a self-proclaimed witch tamer, brandished a small, shiny pistol filled with a single silver bullet. He declared that nothing was happening because the entity feared him. However, no sooner had he spoken than he began to jerk violently, his body twisting unnaturally in all directions. With a loud crash, he was thrown out the front door, and the whole house heard a booming female voice curse him as a fraud. Terrified, Jackson's men begged to leave, but Jackson remained resolute, determined to uncover the truth. The men, including Jackson, decided to stay the night. What transpired remains unclear, but they left at first light the next morning, rushing back to Nashville. While it was never officially documented, Jackson later wrote that he'd rather face the British in New Orleans again than deal with the Bell. The paranormal disturbances continued to plague the Bell family, affecting them for years. Betsy Bell, the Bell's eldest daughter, was so affected by the events that she called off her engagement. The haunting persisted until 1820, when John Bell fell into a coma and passed away on December 20th. The following day after John Bell's death, the family discovered a small vial of an unidentified liquid in the cupboard. John Bell Jr. decided to test it by giving some to the family's cat. To his horror, the cat died almost instantly. At that moment, the entity's voice echoed through the house saying, "I gave old Jack a big dose of that last night, and it fixed him up." In shock, John Bell Jr. threw the vial into the fireplace, where it erupted into a bright bluish flame. Soon after, John Bell was laid to rest. However, this was not the end of the strange occurrences. In April 1821, the entity visited John Bell's widow, Lucy. It informed her that it would return every 7 years, and sure enough, it did. Exactly 7 years later. This time, the entity spoke with John Bell Jr., discussing a variety of topics, including the origins of life and civilization. It was also said to have predicted future events, such as the Civil War and both World Wars. The entity's last visit occurred in 1935, when it promised to return in 107 years to the most direct descendant of John Bell. The closest living relative was Dr. Charles Bailey Bell. Though Charles wrote a book about the Bell Witch, he never documented any such visitation. The entity that tormented the Bell family and the Red River settlement for over 2 centuries is still connected to strange and unexplained occurrences near the old Bell farm today. Many have reported eerie whispers, distant voices, and the laughter of unseen children. Others claim to have seen ghostly figures wandering the fields where the settlement once stood, or flickering candlelight appearing in the darkness. The nearby cave, long believed to have been the Bell Witch's lair, remains a hotspot for chilling encounters. Some say they've seen the shadowy figure of a woman lurking within. Despite centuries passing, the legend of the Bell Witch refuses to fade. The true nature of the haunting remains unknown, yet it continues to terrify and intrigue. What do you think? Was the Bell Witch real? Could the multiple eyewitness accounts, including those from future President Andrew Jackson, prove that something sinister truly happened at the Bell farm? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like.